Hi folks, Alex Creel here. I'm going to do a video that's going to put together a lot of threads about who really is running the West right now, and what do they want. And I suspect many people watching this will understand that the sort of actor politicians that are wheeled out in front of the TV and in front of Westminster don't really run that much at all. If anything, I think they're just, as I said, actors, and they're representing and pushing policies that have been developed elsewhere by other people, some of whom we've probably never heard of. And I'm going to explain that process and how it works and who those people are, or at least some of them. So to start with, this whole story begins with Matt Goodwin, who was someone I started looking at in a couple of Substacks, where you can see he was previously heavily involved in Chatham House, and he's gone from a proponent of open borders to a vociferous opponent of open borders. And right now, he's at the point now in July 2025 of talking a lot about riots and civil unrest in the United Kingdom. So, this is just a sample of things that he's written over the last couple of weeks of July 2025. Now, you can argue that he's just reporting this, or you can argue that he is normalizing the concept of civil unrest and violence. And I'm arguing that he's normalizing this, and it's part of the sort of role that he's playing at the moment. So he also, as well as inciting or at least reporting on civil unrest, is at the same time a senior visiting fellow of Chatham House, according to his LinkedIn profile. And he's been doing that job or playing that role since September 2010. So that's 15 years already. He's been in there a long, long time. And I covered in another Substack that when he started his work there, he was pushing very hard for open borders. Of course, the open borders that have led up to those Substack articles you saw there about civil unrest. The cause of that civil unrest is mass immigration, which he lobbied for in his early years associated with Chatham House. And this is just one report where he was cooperating or working together with at least Nick Loles from Hope Not Hate, which is to my mind, a far left NGO whose primary job is to shut down any right of center opposition to open borders. They just smear. So Heritage Party, they smear. UNN, they smear. Essentially anyone that opposes open borders and leftist insanity, they smear them. And they were cooperating with Matt Goodwin at that point, and I wrote about that in a Substack, which you can read if you're interested. And one of the interesting things about that whole episode is the Lotus Eaters produced a completely fake interview with Matt Goodwin, where he wrongly claims that he was only concerned with the BNP, the extreme right. That's not true at all, because he was also smearing UKIP. So UKIP more or less has morphed into Reform UK, and it's more than a little strange that the same guy that in 2012 was writing in The Guardian that UKIP is a far right organization, it's more than a little strange that he is now the tub thumper in chief for Reform UK, which is essentially a reincarnation of UKIP with the same leader, Nigel Farage. Very, very strange, but that's what he did. And Lotus Eaters were wrong to just allow him to say he was only concerned with the BNP and EDL. That's not true. He was also smearing UKIP. So, here is the evidence for that. And in the process of the work he was doing, which I covered in the Substack, he actually characterized sort of far right people as low education, kind of knuckle draggers, pessimistic about the future. And he helpfully includes this caricature of a far righter in his research, sort of an old beer drinking guy with no real future. And that's then what he thought about UKIP people. So I'm pretty sure, does he still think this about reform supporters? Who knows? but we'll get onto that. Now, there was a lot of interesting analysis in that, which I'm not going to go into, but one very striking finding was the fact that they identified way back then in 2012 that the vast majority, huge majority of the British public did not want a mosque built in their local community. In fact, the support levels for welcoming such a move were 1% or less across national UKIP and BNP. People do not want mosques built in their community, but the deep state, the treacherous UK government has allowed over 1,500 mosques to be built in the UK. And they knew from this survey data in the sort of deep state Chatham House operation that people did not want this, but they did it anyway. And we'll look at the reasons, but one of them certainly must be an attack on Christianity by encouraging the massive development of Islam inside the UK. So that project was initiated by Daniel Saxs, who is an advisor at Chatham House and is a scion of a multi-generational wealthy family who moved to, his great grandfather moved to Stockholm as an immigrant, and his grandfather founded NK, which NK is essentially the Harrods of Stockholm. It's a huge upmarket retail location and store, and he is the grandson of the founder uh, of that store, and therefore probably extremely wealthy. He's also the vice chair of George Soros's Open Society Foundations. He's a member of the Wallenberg investment vehicle, and the Wallenbergs own large chunks of Swedish industrial capacity. He's a WEF Young Global Leader and a collaborator with Obama Foundation. So, to my mind, he is the face of this global, I'm not going to call them elites, a global parasite class that is really managing most Western governments.